As a lot of other developers out there, Roadmap.sh is one of our favorite places to go to look at learning paths and roadmaps.
The goal with Roadmap is to become the Google of the learning space. I knew front-end and back-end at that time, and I thought I should put it on GitHub, and I just shared with anyone who reaches out to me.
Was this all built in that weekend, as you mentioned?
So what I did was I posted this on Hacker News on Sunday evening, and I went to bed. I woke up next morning and I saw that it was on the top of Hacker News.
This also came up in the interview that you were preparing for?
There would be people that would give you really harsh feedback. So for example, when I posted Driver.js, I think, or when I posted Roadmap, there was a comment on Reddit saying, "You are the cancer of the internet."
Just going back on that specific feedback, maybe in the earlier days when you were young, how did that really impact you?
A lot of CEOs, company CEOs, are saying that AI is going to replace developers. If you're learning CS, don't learn computer science. AI will be overtaking you and so on.
So I think there is an interesting story there to be shared. And I think this is also especially beneficial for those who are looking for jobs, right? I think this is an inspirational story. You want to tell us a little bit about the first and only hire? Hi, Kamran. Welcome to this show. As a lot of other developers out there, Roadmap.sh is one of our favorite places to go to look at learning paths and roadmaps. It's a pleasure to have you on this show. This is one of our first shows, so thank you so much for being our first guest. Why don't we start with some introductions? If you can, tell us a little bit about who you are, and we get started.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Mumshad. So I'm the founder of Roadmap.sh. I have almost 15 years of experience in the industry. I started off as a backend developer in 2013 as my first job, but I was coding before that. I've been a founding engineer at multiple different startups. So I worked at 2 service-based companies in the beginning. Then I joined some startups and worked for almost 8 years in Dubai, where there were 2 prominent companies that I was a founding engineer of. One was called Al Musafir. I was employee number 10, and I saw it grow from 10 people to almost 1,000 people. The next one was curated.com, which was a B2B commerce platform. There I was employee number 3. And when I left them after 2 years, we were at 250 people, almost 65 people in the tech team. And I was leading the team of 13 people. Apart from that, I have spent almost 2 years in Germany as well. I worked for Zalando, another big company as well there. Right now I'm based in UK, working full-time on Roadmap.sh. I'm also a GitHub star, Google developer expert. Also contributed a lot of open source projects. I have some quite famous projects on GitHub. I am the second most starred in terms of projects on GitHub. And I always had this entrepreneurial drive. I always wanted to build things all the time. So I always have a side project. And this was something that prompted me to build Roadmap and all the other projects that you see on my GitHub profile.
Amazing. Amazing experience. I'm very impressed with what you've built with Roadmap. And that's what a lot of us know about. But there are other projects, as you mentioned, that are popular as well. So maybe why don't we start there? I would like to start with the time before Roadmap and maybe take a quick peek into some of the other popular projects you have on GitHub. And of course, we want to dive deep into, how you work on your projects and things like that later in this podcast. But for now, let's just begin with your GitHub profile. So let me just pull that up. Awesome. So here we have, at the top, we have the developer roadmap, which is Roadmap, which has, as of now, 300,000 plus stars. But maybe we can start with some of the others. So what was probably your first project?
So first one was PHP geocoding library. It is not here. But if you go down, you will be able to see jQuery Toast plugin. So this was, I think, second project that I built, the second open source project I did.
jQuery Toast plugin. Okay.
Yeah, so this was, I think, second or third project that I did as an open source project. It was just a plugin to add Toast notifications to your websites. I built this because I was doing a project and I had a need for that. There were already some libraries out there, but I wanted to learn about JavaScript. So I thought, why don't I build this on my own? So I built this, put it on Reddit, Hacker News, everywhere. I got this many stars. It was not that famous at that time, but now, if you search for jQuery Toast, it comes up as a top project on GitHub. So that's why I think it got this many stars. So yeah, but mainly I did it because I wanted to learn about how to publish your packages on Power at that time and how to use them. Other than that, it's all almost random. So Roadmap is now the first one, but I built this around 2017. I think early in my career at that time. So I started my career formally with a job in 13. So almost like after 2 or 3 years later. Design pattern for humans was later after developer roadmap. So I was preparing myself for an interview. So I had an interview at this big company called Trivago, and I did some interview questions on Glassdoor, and they said that they asked a lot about design patterns. I did not know super well about design patterns, so I thought maybe I should prepare myself. So I had the notes ready. So I thought, why don't I put them on GitHub? So I just took the notes, polished them a bit, and then put them on GitHub. And then again, like I posted this on Hacker News, it just shot up to the first page, got this many stars. And almost like one day I got almost like 1,000 or 2,000 stars on GitHub. So this was that. I prepared it because of that. Other than that, also there is a similar story behind all the projects. So none of them were built randomly. I always had some pain point that I wanted to solve for myself, or just something that I wanted to explore. So I built a project. So normally what I do is, like, instead of learning things randomly, I try to build projects that actually have some use case, either for me or for others, and then I put them on GitHub.
Amazing. So the kind of the pattern that I'm seeing, at least for the first 2 projects that we looked at, it was a learning exercise, right? You want to learn something, even though something already existed. Perhaps in case of the jQuery toast, something already existed, but you wanted to learn anyway. So you built something simple and put it out there and shared it. That's another pattern that I want to get to in a bit, how you make them popular. But the first step is for you to build it as part of the learning exercise and put it out on GitHub, right? And I'm guessing in this case specifically, you did that for a job interview.
Yes.
I think there's an interesting story that I think you mentioned to me once, where this also came up in the interview that you were preparing for. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. As I mentioned, like, I did not know much about design patterns at that time. So this is, I think, 2017, 18 at that time when I built this project. So I had the interview. I made these notes for learning. I think I had interview on Monday, and on Sunday I was preparing myself for the interview. So I prepared these notes. On Sunday evening, I just put all these notes on GitHub. And if you go down a bit, if you look at the explanations, most of the explanations you find online are including a diagram, some complex details about what this design pattern is, and so on. But if you see here, like, I was looking at, if I need to explain it to myself, what would be the real world example for me? How would I explain it to myself in plain words? And what does the formal definition like Wikipedia says about this? And then I would write a programmatic example to see how would I implement this in the programming side. So that's how I was preparing myself for the interview. So what I did was, like, I posted this on Hacker News on Sunday evening, and I went to bed. I woke up next morning and I saw that it had almost 250 upvotes on Hacker News. It was on the top of Hacker News, and so many stars, almost like 1,000 stars. So then I had the interview call, and during the interview call, the guy asked me, tell me about your projects. And Roadmap was famous, but this was almost at the same fame level in terms of stars at that time. And I told him about design patterns. And then in the interview, he said, it's funny because I noticed this project on Hacker News. And then funny enough, he did not ask me anything about design patterns, even though I did not know anything about design patterns. I was just preparing myself for the interview. This helped me not only learn design patterns, but also pass that interview because of that.
Amazing. So that's just such a way to hack an interview, right? Into getting them to see your work through Hacker News and then not have to ask you any questions about it.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the second thing that I wanted to tap on. So number one, you build things, and you, I guess, build this well, because to come up with this in that maybe at the time when there was no ChatGPT or anything to generate content or explain things simply, that itself is big, right? Like you've put in effort to kind of simplify some of these complex design patterns for normal people by explaining it in different ways. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. Like when you build something, either, something like this, that's more like a documentation, a learning exercise, or even like building a tool or tech, like what is your take on like putting in effort? Like how much effort do you put, and like how fast do you get things out? Like was this all built in that weekend, as you mentioned? Like there's a lot here.
Yeah, so as I said, like I was preparing my notes already. So I started off not with the intention of putting this on GitHub, but just as the notes so that I can revisit them for my future interviews or just preparing myself. So normally, when I was in university in 2010 to 14 was my batch. during that time, I was also IEEE ambassador and also a Microsoft student partner. So I was doing a lot of events there, a lot of like mentorship sessions, inviting people to come and have sessions and so on. So at that time, like it taught me a lot about teaching side and things like that. I got super good with writing because I was writing proposals and preparing presentation and all that stuff. So that's why I think it taught me a lot of good things about this stuff at that time. Secondly, I mean, because I always had a side project or something, so I always was keen that if someone visits a page that I built, within a few seconds, I need to capture their attention so that they stick. So that was the main intention with if you go to the top, I made sure that in the top, like I clearly mentioned what it is about. I put a pretty banner at the top saying like what this is and why should they care. So see here, ultra simplified explanation to design patterns, a topic that can easily make anyone's mind wobble. So I just in this few seconds that anyone comes, I'm clearly saying like what this is about and why you should care. And then I have the table of contents. So you know like what it is covered. And then you just, first example, I clearly highlight with a quote, like what is this, what is that, and so on. So I think the first few seconds is important. So it's always my philosophy that when I build something, whether it is a design or a web app or a project or documentation, I want to grab the attention of the user in the first few seconds and then get them to start it or like share it or whatever it is.
Yeah, amazing. So can I ask like how much of these patterns do you actually use in your maybe day-to-day projects? Like has learning this really changed the way that you build things in the past few years?
It did massively. So in the beginning, I was a PHP developer. I was coding with PHP most of the time. Then I did some .NET, also some Java as well. That was more object-oriented side of things. At that time, I was using these things heavily. I mean, not heavily in all the aspects or whatever it made sense. I was using these patterns. But now it's mostly functional side of the programming, so I'm not using it as much. But it did definitely open up my brain towards like different ways of doing things.
Okay.
And one of the things that I mean you do also with design patterns is like you make sure that your code is testable. So no matter if you're using object-oriented programming or functional programming, it also like made me practice that part as well, how to make my code testable and properly readable and stuff like that.
Okay, amazing. Cool. So the next thing that I wanted to jump to was the second part of it, where you build things, and of course you have to build things well, but how do you get it out to people, right? And one of the things that you mentioned a couple of times is getting it out on, say, platforms like Hacker News. So first of all, when did you come across this idea that you could put something on Hacker News? And tell us a little bit about Hacker News for those of us who were not familiar with it that much. Like, what is Hacker News and how is it different from like other platforms?
So at the moment, for me, I use Hacker News and Reddit, two platforms, just for me to get up to date or share things that I'm building. I think majority of developers visit these pages daily, like Hacker News and Reddit. So Hacker News is just there. Like if you're building something interesting as a project, you put that there. If you come across some interesting article, you put this there, and so on. I came across this from just randomly. So I was just searching like places to share your project. I came across some article and they shared that you should put it on Hacker News and you should put it on Reddit and here and there. That's how I came across it. If you look at my previous post, I'm not going to share the link with you, but if you come across this, you will see that I was putting cheesy titles in there like with emojis and didn't know how to use Hacker News at that time. If you search github.com/Kamran Ahmed, you will find a bunch of different projects here.
So I just searched for design patterns for humans and I thought something came up.
If you go, this one. This was the one that I posted.
So you just went to Hacker News and you just made this single post that said design patterns, a comprehensive guide along with the link, and that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
I mean, normally it doesn't like go to the front page, but this was, I think, my first post. It also got to the front page. So this was a bit surprising. So after that, I just started building like whatever I was building, I put it on Hacker News and Reddit and here and there. So this was me to use it as an avenue to gain traction against our project.
Okay. But how do you compare, let's say, Hacker News to Reddit or other channels? Like, are there other channels that you use other than Hacker News?
So I use Reddit, Hacker News mostly, two of these, and Twitter. Now I don't promote my projects as much, but before I used to do it a lot. But yeah, Reddit and Hacker News were the main thing. Apart from that, there's Twitter, LinkedIn,
Okay. But I'm guessing at least initially you had a lot of traction just from Hacker News. Is that right?
Not from Hacker News. So Hacker News, I got one or two projects there that got to the front page, but Reddit was the main source of traffic. So Reddit also, I think it is much easier to get to the front page in there as compared to Hacker News, because Reddit has a lot of sub-communities. Like Reddit, subreddit would be learn programming. If I'm learning something, I would share it there. JavaScript, I can build a project, I can put it there. I can put it in programming subreddit. So one project could be submitted across 4 or 5 subreddits. So I was just posting it here and there, but I was not posting it just to get the stars or gain traction. I was just posting it to get feedback as well on the projects that I was building, just to see like if I can learn from people that there and so on. But another thing I would highlight is that people are not always gentle with you. When you post stuff, there would be people that would give you like really harsh feedback. And if you are the kind of person who does not take negative feedback lightly, then it would be difficult for you to do that. So you maybe post one project and then you would stop it. And so keep an open mind, and when you're sharing, just like keep it in mind that there would be like some really negative comments about your work.
Agree. So I think most developers build things, like most tech people like to build things. I think that's a creative kind of release you get, like, building cool stuff, right? But I'm not sure how many know how to effectively market that or share their work. I wouldn't, use the term market, but ultimately you want to be able to figure out how you can get your project out. And it need not be for any kind of gains in terms of financial gains or GitHub stars or whatever. A lot of people just want to see their products being used by others and, creating an impact in the world. So, but I guess a lot of people have no idea how to get their projects out or how to get visibility to the stuff that they're doing. So I think this is key to what you did in your earlier days in terms of building good stuff and then sharing it in the right circles. And I think what most people may not get rightly is those circles, identifying those circles where their project can make an impact. So you mentioned about things that you didn't do right, or, you were going around posting stuff, but like, are there learnings from that in terms of what you should be doing, what you shouldn't? Like, for example, using emojis, or whether you should use emojis, or whether you shouldn't. What are some learnings from that?
At that time, I was also a bit, young at that time. I did not know how to use this stuff at that time. There's also, we're talking about 2015, 16 at that time. Internet was also booming at that time. People were not that active, at least the people I knew. No one knew about Reddit, Hacker News. Now it was also not aware of the norms at that time, like how you should get feedback and so on. But yeah, but other than that, I don't think, there was much that I would change from that time, because when I was building, my aim was not to get stars. My aim was learning, and I think it did serve me well. I learned a lot. There were a lot of negative comments. For example, when I posted Driver.js, I think, or when I posted Roadmap, there was a comment on Reddit saying, "You are the cancer of the internet," just because he did not agree with me on the recommendations that I had on the roadmap. So there were negative feedbacks, but I never attached myself to the work I was doing. I always thought that this is the comment on my work, not me personally, even though the guy said about me. But yeah, so I was not I was not super upset with the comments like this. I was always saying that my goal is to learn. If someone says positive things, if let's say 10 people are there, 8 people are saying positive things or giving me proper feedback, it does not have any impact on me. Yeah. So I was just using it as a learning opportunity. So yeah, my recommendation for anyone who's out there would be that whenever you're building something, you're in a small bubble. You don't know if you're doing things the right way or the wrong way, how other people are doing it, or how you can improve it. So always do things, tell people out there. I remember that when I was used to build things, I was a bit shy to post it on LinkedIn, for example, or Twitter, because I would think that it would come off as I'm bragging or sharing my things or whatever. But always, everyone has a thought. So don't think of this. Always think that people might think that you're bragging, but you are doing it because you want to achieve ABC from this.
Yeah. Very, very important. So the feedback, I think that is super important to keep yourself motivated. Like when you do good things, you want to feel motivated to do more. I think that really helps, the positive feedback. But at the same time, I believe sometimes the feedbacks that really shape you as an individual, as a person, the feedback that really shapes your work could be some of the negative feedbacks, right? And I remember too, in my case, like when we released the courses, you cannot always please all of the students. So as you said, if we get 8 out of 10, in our case, we look at like 4-star or anything that's above 4.5 star, we consider as good, then we're happy. But of course, you cannot please everybody. But I have to say that sometimes it was really the negative feedback or the ones that are really on point that has shaped our future courses, or we've had to go back and improve our existing courses based on the feedback, which has helped us tremendously. So I think there is, as you said, right, there is a lot of learning that's available from these feedback. And I think that's crucial. But just going back on that specific feedback, maybe in the earlier days that when you were young, how did that really impact you? Like at least initially, right? Like as soon as you heard it, what did you feel? And how did you kind of overcome that? Like how long did it take for you to overcome that? Or were you just immediately fine? And like how did you react to it?
I mean, to be honest, I'd never had any negative impact on me. I would just always say that what this guy is saying, because normally the negative feedback that you get is like the guy is trying to say something negative, but in there is some message also. And I would look at it and I mean, normally it would make sense. Why is this guy saying this? I mean, for example, someone is saying you're the cancer of the internet because I mean, in there is something hidden that you are recommending some bad stuff. So it means that I need to improve this project further or whatever. So I always look at the project in this manner, that how can I improve it? So yeah, I mean, for me, like in the beginning, I used to think that, I mean, why is this person saying this? Because I put too much effort into the project and so on. But yeah, it wasn't that much. I don't think it had any negative impact. That was the reason for me to keep pushing myself and keep posting things.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were working in Dubai with a few startups. And I guess it's around that time you started working on Roadmap. Tell us a little bit about what led you to create Roadmap and like what did the initial kind of version look like? What was the motivation there in putting that together?
Okay, so in general about open source, so I started when I moved to Dubai. So before that, I was working for the service-based companies where the focus is just on delivering things. The focus is not on quality. I mean, there is some focus on the quality, but it is not as much as is in the product-driven company. When I moved to Dubai, I got to work with some people who had really good experience, who were trying to push things. The things were being done in a proper manner. They used to not take bad code into the code base and stuff like that. We were using GitHub. We had CI/CD and all the things that you have in a modern service. So for me, at that time, I started doing more open source because at that time, like I started using GitHub more. I was looking at the projects that we were using. We were using packages and we were using libraries. So I started following these people from the company. They were starting projects and I would come across some project that is super interesting. So I was always thinking that what should I build as well for myself? Like what projects should I build and so on. So the reason why I built Roadmap was at that time in 2017, as I mentioned before, I was IEEE ambassador and also Microsoft student partner. I was doing a lot of mentorship sessions in the university days. So I was still in touch with the university people at that time. So what was happening was I was getting a lot of students reaching out to me asking for guidance. So someone would come and say that I'm learning about ABC, what should I learn next? Or I'm learning about this, what should I learn? Or what are the different options that I have and so on. Because at that time, I also lacked the proper understanding of the field. I was also learning. So I thought, why don't I just do some research and talk to some people and then come up with some learning path or guidance that I can put in the form of a visual image that whenever someone reaches out, I can just share it with them. So I built these diagrams, these images for front-end and back-end because I knew front-end and back-end at that time. And I thought I should put it on GitHub and I just shared it with anyone who reaches out to me. So I put that on GitHub. So yeah, this was the first version at that time in March 27. So when I put it there, like this is the first few hours, like 8 to 10 hours, like we had almost 1,000 stars on the repository. So yeah, the roadmaps, I mean, if you look at these now, these are just static images, completely different from what it is today. Not interactive, no resources, just 2 images and that's it. So this is how it got the start.
Amazing. So, and I'm guessing you did the same. So you built, you put together this GitHub repository with these images and shared it on Hacker News. Was that the approach?
Yes. I put it on Hacker News, on Reddit, only 2 places. And I think it also got to the front page on Hacker News as well at that time. So it got a lot of traction from there. A lot of newsletters picked it up, and then they started sharing with people. A lot of popular Twitter accounts posted about this and so on. So this is how it got the start.
Amazing. And was this after the design patterns or before?
This was after a month of design patterns, I think.
Okay. Amazing. So at that time, this was a few static images where you explain how you can go from a front-end or a back-end engineer developer path as well as DevOps, because I guess at that time, 2017, that's when, DevOps was really picking up. And then you have these different paths for front-end, back-end engineers. So from what you said, I understand you had the goal to kind of simplify this for beginners, the students that you've been working with. And how long did it take for you to come up with this version of the diagrams? And then what tool did you use to build this? Because I think a lot of people are interested in understanding, like, how do you build a diagram like this? I know there are many tools today, but like in 2017, what did you use to build it?
Yeah, so I built this using Balsamiq. So Balsamiq was a wireframing tool that I was using it for myself. So Balsamiq is a wireframing tool that you use to develop mockups for the projects you're working on. So I was using it mainly for that. So I really liked the pencil drawn look of that, like the font and the line, the way it looked like. So I thought maybe I should use this to draw these images because they will look a bit pretty as well. And I just used it. I used text input as a rectangle. Now it has much more stuff, but at that time it used to be super simple. So these boxes are the input text areas that you would do in a web app. Lines are the horizontal rules and arrows, and then circle is just small circle. So I mixed those together to come up with this image. And if you look at the roadmaps at that time also, like, things used to be super simple at that time. DevOps was picking up, as you said. Front end used to be really simple. There was HTML, CSS, ES6 was something recently introduced. jQuery was the main thing at that time. And if you look at the yellow boxes, most of the recommendations were the only things that were being used heavily at that time. So I built this with my own understanding. So at the company, we were using jQuery, we were using AngularJS, using HTML, CSS, and so on. So based on my understanding and the things that we were using at the company, I just built this.
Understood. So now, what do you think people liked in this? I mean, from the looks of it, so you used whatever tool you had at your disposal in creating diagrams. I mean, this can be done in many different tools, right? And then you use whatever knowledge you had at that time in putting together a learning path, a roadmap for these two different tracks. But what do you think people really liked it in this, so that it got thousands of stars in a matter of few days?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I talk about myself, when I was starting in my career, I did not have a proper path, like 2012-13 at that time. I was doing web development, I was doing game development, Android development. I also did some graphic designing, After Effects. And so I was doing everything only because I did not have a proper path. I thought that I have learned backend fully, I've learned front-end development fully, there's nothing much to learn, so just pick up something else. Or what I should have done is picked up one thing and then master it fully and then build projects with it and then move on to the next thing. But I was not doing that. So I think most of the people are lacking the same thing, the proper guidance. And the other thing was the visual format. I mean, this made it look like there's just these boxes, so kind of a checklist. So these are the things you need to learn. So this checklist view, I think, was the thing that made it famous because there was no such thing at that time.
Understood.
I mean, there were people writing articles like how to become a front-end developer. But that article would be like a long essay with a lot of text and so on. But the good thing about this was just these boxes in quickest format, and that's it.
Yeah, agree. So I guess one, it gives you like a very high level overview of the whole front end space. So like in one look, get an idea, what are the different areas and what are some of the tools available in those areas, which is huge, right? So I think the visualization part is super key here. And I think that's something that most tech people really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is the first version. Let's talk about what happened after. So tell us a little bit about how do you come up with this? Like, how long did it take for you to put this together?
Okay, for me, I'm a visual learner. So I always try to learn things. Really, if I show you my notepad here, I have a lot of things here in the form of visual. So even if I'm taking notes, I don't write long sentences or whatever. I just do small drawings or small pictures to represent the whole thing so that I can look at it and that get the idea immediately without going through T. So I always knew how to draw things and explain things in a smallest format. So that's how it took me like, I think 2 hours or so to develop these 2 images and put them on GitHub. And when it got the traction, I was surprised because design process took me like maybe 24, 48 hours or something. This one I did it in 2 hours and this got more traction than that one. So yeah, but it was quick, like 1-2 hours.
Makes sense. So, and what was your immediate reaction like after seeing the impact that it had? What did you think?
Nothing. I was thinking now that I need to maintain this because a lot of people were opening issues. I never had a project where it got so many issues. If you go up on top, I think it will have the number there too here. But yeah, there were a lot of people opening issues. I think within 1 week, I got 200 or 150 or something stars on the repository. And a lot of people were saying this is bad. See here, like this is the second or third day or no, it's the first week or something. So yeah, a lot of people were giving suggestions and then a lot of community feedback was pouring in. So it was difficult for me to maintain the repository. For me, I'm thinking now what kind of headache I've got it myself into. There was a point I thought that I should close the issue so no one can open the issue. I would just do it every year based on whatever I'm understanding at the time. But good thing I didn't do it. I mean, community feedback was the thing that helped me shape this into where it is today.
Amazing. So I'm guessing at that time you had your day job and something that you were doing on the side. And what did you think? Like, how many hours did you think that you would want to spend on this? Like, as you mentioned, your initial reaction was that there's so many people are raising issues. They want to contribute. They want things to be changed, and it's got like really popular very soon. And you're also thinking like, okay, now it's a headache to maintain this. And what did you end up doing? Like, and how did you manage that with your day job, which I'm guessing would have taken a lot of your time at that time?
Yeah, so the day job at that time was super demanding. So because this was a startup, it was the early days of the startup. We used to go in the morning around 9 a.m. and we used to come back, I think at 10, 11 p.m. at night. So it was super demanding. During the week, I would never get any time to work on this. So I had this schedule that I always used to keep Sunday for myself. So I would spend time on Sunday on my personal projects. So it was just a side project that I was not thinking too much about. I was just saying that every Sunday I would spend some time on this and so on. But for the most part, I worked on it for a month or two and then I left it. From 2017 till the end of 2017, I did not touch it. I let the issues pile up. I let the pull requests pile up and so on. And then when the year end comes, because this clearly said roadmap for 2017, I thought now it is time for me to update it, because if I leave it at that, no one is going to come back to it. If I have a dead project on my GitHub, it is also going to look bad on my part. So I picked it up again in 2018 end, but again, like I redrew it and then I left it for a year or so. Yeah, this website that you see, so I left it for the most part. So this is in May 2019. So in 2017, and I had the update at that time in 2018, this was the version that I had, a different looking image. So I thought that a lot of people are saying things, how you should improve this and so on. Maybe I should put it on the website so that people have a link to share. If someone is interested in backend only, they can just look at one page. And then if you look at this, we are working on extending this page with resources, exercises, sample projects, and more details on how to follow. So I thought maybe people are asking for that stuff. Maybe it's getting so much traction, I should work on these things. So I decided to put it on our website in 2019 start. And that's how this website was born.
Awesome. So at that time in 2019, you only had this one page website. Is that right?
So if you go to the homepage, there were 3 roadmaps: front end, back end, DevOps. And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just a 3-page website with front end, back end, and DevOps roadmaps, and which are like basically 3 images for each of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another lesson for me to not take the feedback from people, like everyone's feedback. So if you look at front end roadmap, this looks a bit different from the back end roadmap. Back end roadmap is super textual. So I was turning it into a guide because people were saying that development is not just learning the tools. You should do this and that, make it in textual format. So I had the notes. What I did was like I spent a day and converted the whole roadmap into this long textual format visual, which was a stupid idea on my end also. I should not have done that. A lot of people hated this also because now it was becoming a simple blog post. Yeah. And I went back after I think a month or 2 into the same format again, and I condensed this into a different kind of image.
Got it. So let's look at the next version. This is in 2020.
Yeah.
So by now you have a slightly different version. I guess you still have the 3 roadmaps, but then there are other guides that you've started to create.
Yeah, so these images were there, 3 images. I thought that maybe I should turn Roadmap into a website where I give guidance to people, like normal blog posts about how to improve as a developer and so on. Still the same images, same looking images, updated with different recommendations, different topics and so on. But if you go back, I started writing guides. There's a guide here, levels of seniority. So this was the first kind of guide I wrote. So I was thinking I would write similar kind of guides, like long form articles about how to improve as a developer. But I was leaning more towards the blog format because I did not know what to do with the website or with these roadmaps. Like, how can I improve it? How can I make them interactive? And one of the reasons for that also was the tool that I picked. So I picked Balsamiq. So Balsamiq was not a tool that was usable for making interactive images and so on. So I had a chat with the guy, the founder of Balsamiq also. He knew about Roadmap. So we had a chat. I sent him a message and then I asked him like if there are any plans for you to export SVG for me so I can use it, embed it on the website and I can make it interactive and so on. And that never happened. I mean, they had different plans. They could not do it just for me because this was an established project. So yeah, that's why I just started doing it in the format of a blog.
Awesome. Okay. And I guess you also had community contributions. Like I see a few others who have contributed to it as well.
Yeah, so just building a BitTorrent client, I just came across this post. I sent a message to the guy that would you want to push it here? He said he agreed to it. There were also some people I didn't know. I was a bit naive at that time. Many people were reaching out to gain backlinks. I didn't know SEO was a thing, like how SEO worked at that time. There were people reaching out to me say that I want to contribute. Can you put my article in there? I would look at the article, some description and it looked good. So I said, yeah, I will do it. Then this is how like some guys started coming in. Then I like realized that that's what the game is. Like they're trying to push their brand authority on through Roadmap. And that's why I stopped doing many of that. But they were not like contributions were still coming for the roadmaps, but there were not many people contributing the articles or guides that were really good. So this is about, I think 2020 still, almost the end of 2020. So I thought maybe I should go away from blog format, keep it into the roadmap format. And if you see here, like I have 135,000 stars almost. So that's where I added 3 more roadmaps. I knew React, so I added React roadmap. And Android and Postgre roadmap were contributed by the community. And they also looked a bit differently. So this is an image, still the image.
Yep.
Go back, Postgre roadmap is a bit different. This is more textual and kind of a blog format. So I was thinking because many people are trying to contribute these roadmaps. So maybe not everyone can draw pretty images and I don't have time to draw the images because it was also now taking me time to do this. So that's why I thought maybe I should add 2 types of roadmap. One would be textual, one would be the visual. And if you go to the Android roadmap, it's also a bit different. It's a broken down format. So if you see here, I was still experimenting and see like how can I come up with a good format that is easy for me to maintain, easy for me to extend, and I can do it properly. So this is also experimented that maybe I do full image, then I give the broken down format and I explain the reasoning for recommending something or giving some project ideas and so on. So I took this approach also, learned from it. And then this was also not good because people were still going back to front and back in DevOps and they were ignoring thinking that this is still textual, they don't like it as much and so on. Still giving me feedback that make it visual, add resources, add reasoning about your recommendation and so on. Then I improved it further. So what I did was I started looking at Balsamiq and I thought maybe I should reverse engineer and see how can I make the exported image from Balsamiq into interactive diagram. So there were multiple different ideas I explored. One was that I took the image and I thought that maybe I should use HTML image maps. So I mapped the certain portions of the image and make it clickable. And then on click, I just redirect the user to a different page. This was a bit challenging because on smaller devices, map can't be used. Then what I did was I spent a day or 2 looking through the format that they were exporting. So they used to give JSON format. Again, at that time, there was no ChatGPT, no AI and so on. So I had to really like look deeply into the format that it was producing and then come up with like what they are doing, how they are storing the data and so on. Then I built a JavaScript library that I could feed the JSON that Balsamiq was exporting and it would draw this image for me, this interactive SVG. And that's how the interactive roadmap was born. So this was the first version, is interactive, and this is how it blew up immediately. At that time, before the interactivity, I had almost like 100,000 visitors per month. And this, within a month or 2, it went to almost like 200,000 or something.
Amazing. So just the interactivity part changed the game, right? So you said
Yes.
you would still create the image in Balsamiq and then export it as a JSON and then feed that JSON into your tool, which would end up creating this. Did I get that right?
Yes. Though that was the final version, yeah.
Okay. And did it used to work on mobile devices or not?
Yeah, it would work on mobile also. So the responsibility for JavaScript part was just to take the JSON, convert into the SVG, and then embed it there, which was also good because I tried other aspects. So what I did was also, so Balsamiq allowed you to export PDFs. PDFs were really high quality. So I tried to look at the PDF, like how they're embedding this into that. And there was SVG inside the PDF that they were embedding. They were just not letting you take the SVG from there. So, but the thing was the SVG size of that PDF was almost like 4 or 5 MBs. So it would have not been possible for me to add it to the website because no one can load 5 or 6 MBs. With JavaScript, I wrote just like almost 20, 30 KBs of JavaScript. And that was converting the JSON, which is also a couple of KBs, and converting it into the heavy SVG. And that's it. And now SVG was working on mobile as well.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So this is 2021. So by now you had figured out how to create interactive roadmaps. And in 2022, let's move to that. And then from there on, like the views and traffic and everything to the site just started skyrocketing.
Yeah. So 21, I made them interactive. I added some other learning features like Mark has done. So now you can track your progress as well, but no accounts, nothing. It's all static still, but people think it is dynamic. It can track user progress and so on. I was still getting issues that people were saying that why can't I access my progress on this other device or mobile device and so on. But it was all local, all static. One reason for that was it was a static HTML that was put on GitHub pages. And the reason for that was I didn't want to spend money on the project because again, in the end, it was just for the benefit of community. I was not getting anything out of it. And I didn't want to spend any amount on that. So that's why I just kept it static on GitHub pages with JavaScript, with local storage as a database, and that's it. So this growth that you see here was all with $0 per month on the infrastructure at almost like 250,000 visitors per month. So in 2022, I joined Roadmap full time. So what happened was I got reached out by Insight Partners, which is a private equity firm in US. They're super big. They have like $92 billion of assets in their control. There were people reaching out to me before also, but I never sold it because they were talking about utilizing it for their own gains. So they had either some premium course that they wanted to sell to people, or they had some similar kind of motives. And I didn't want to do it because the community was mostly beginners. And I didn't want that someone take it and destroy the whole community. So I would rather keep it myself. So I talked to Insight Partners and they had a different goal. So they wanted me to join the project and grow it. And I asked them like what their plans are and so on. They were a bit different that aligned with me. So I said, okay, I'll join it. Then in 22 start, I joined it. And then it skyrocketed. Like we have grown massively at that time. Like at that time, visitors were almost 250,000. We had only like 4 or 5 roadmaps. Right now we have 55 roadmaps. Almost like 4 or 5 best practices, a lot of features, accounts, project ideas, a lot of different things. It was like a really good decision on my part that I ended up joining full time.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit about that, right? Around what time you said, was it in 2022 that you decided to join Roadmap full time?
No, so I was working for Zalando in around 21. I was working for Zalando in Germany. And I hated Germany because of the language barrier. It was German. It was difficult for me to speak German. I was trying to learn it. I could not learn it. And then company was also like corporate. It was super slow. Things moved really slowly. So even if you need to change a button color, it would take like 3 weeks to get the approval and all that stuff. So I really liked the startups that I was working for before. At that time also Insight Partner reached out to me just asking like what your plans are for this and so on. So I thought maybe I should go full time on Roadmap. If I go ahead with the acquisition, maybe I will join Roadmap full time, or I could find a job if it doesn't work out. So in December 21, I decided to leave Zalando, move back to Dubai from Germany, and started working on this full time. And the discussion went on for like 6-7 months because I was still a bit reluctant. I was still thinking, I'm not sure like what their plans are because all the acquisition stories that I've heard so far, they don't end up well. Like projects end up getting destroyed and so on. So I was a bit reluctant, but then, they were able to convince me and we were happy with it. Then I went ahead in June 22 with the acquisition, and I decided to join full time.
Amazing. So what does that look like? Like for most people, I think, as you mentioned, the acquisition is usually worrying, right? Like when another party comes and they want to acquire your website, your company is usually worrying. And then, as you mentioned, you had received a lot of offers from a lot of different VCs I'm getting or other companies to acquire Roadmap, but you did not do that mainly because you were worried that they would come in and, kind of destroy the community that you're building, right? So how different was like Insight Partners? Like what were their goal in terms of acquiring Roadmap?
So the other people, what they were trying to do was they were just thinking of taking it away, and that's it. I just sell it, I get some amount, and that's it. And Insight was a bit different because they were mainly discussing that me leaving was not a point. So they were saying that you have to join us and you have to help us grow. And they asked me like, what your plans are for the roadmap? Like, what do you want to do with it? The beginning, like initial call was not even about acquisition. This was just for them to understand like what I'm doing at Roadmap and all these things. And I just gave them the plan. So that's for the first part. Like they were asking me like what I want to do with it. The second, they wanted me to join the project with it. The third was at that time, it was not making any money at all. It was not doing anything, and still they were interested. And I asked them about their goals as well. So their goal was just for me to keep growing it. And they were trying to get into the developer space because they have a lot of investments in a lot of developer platforms like Docker, Udemy, and all that stuff. So this was one of the reasons. So they wanted to be where the developers are. So that's why they were acquiring it. So this was something that set it apart. So that's why I decided to go. And again, like this is now almost three years later, right? And website has only improved. We have not added any paywalls. We have not done anything bad. Developer experience is the same. You don't see any banners here and there saying that this is the ad, this is like you should do this, you should do that, and so on. So it's still like the same vibes that I had before, even better. Like developer experience has improved. I was able to get help because now they are funding it. I'm able to hire more people and get help. I'm able to get people to contribute roadmaps that I could not get from before. They can put me in touch with Docker, the people they're working with, and I can get them to make roadmap for me and so on.
Amazing. So I think you touched upon one of the important points there that I wanted to dive into deeply. So for years, I guess from like 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, almost like 6-7 years, you've been working on it as a one-man team. Is that right? How did you manage to just work on it on your own? Like what was the effort involved? And why did you not consider like getting additional help? Okay, so as I mentioned in the beginning, it was just the images, right? People could make, but they were not making the roadmap images in the same format that I had. So roadmaps had a specific style, and I wanted to keep that style. People who were trying to contribute, they were not contributing in terms of code, in terms of content or whatever it is. Most of the contributions were in the term of ideas, like do this, do that. Why are you recommending this? Why are you recommending that? So we have almost like 1,000 plus contributors at the minute. And most of these contributors were who were suggesting, who were pointing out things and so on. And on my part, I used to look at the GitHub issues, and issues were mostly saying that you should add this, you should add that, do this, do that. So I really did not have a need for getting extra help in maintaining the project, for example. So what I would do was every year, at the end of the year, I would just spend some time, go through all the issues that we had because we had 4 roadmaps, and I would just improve the roadmaps, and that's it. I got my first hire in after the acquisition, like 3-4 months later, because now I had funding, so I could add features that required money. Before it was all me, so I didn't want to test DevOps or like get massive bills from AWS and all these places. So that's why I was keeping it. Now I was not worried about bills or anything at all because they have money, they would pay me, and I'll just put it there. So that's why I thought maybe I should add login, I should add this and that and so on. So I decided to get my first hire, and then we started working together. So right now we have 2 people. It's me, and I have a student who's working with me. Is I think in third or 4th semester. He's from Bangladesh, and the 2 of us are working together. Amazing. So I think there is an interesting story there to be shared of the student that you have right now. And I think this is also especially beneficial for those who are looking for jobs, right? I think this is an inspirational story. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your first hire? I guess the first and only hire. How did it come about? And maybe like the experience you've had over the years working with this person?
Sure. So this person sent me a message in 2018, I think. So I made the roadmap in 2017. So he sent me a message in 2018 asking for something. This was like before even his university days. So like how long ago? Like 7 years ago. So he was still learning about things on his own. And he sent me a message that I'm learning this. What should I learn next and so on. So I just sent him a message and we had just small Twitter exchange. After 2 years, like he just took my message and then he went away. 2 years later, he sent me another message saying that, what is the font you're using on your YouTube videos? I told him the font and that's it. We are not having that again. Then in 22, so this was the third message that he sent me. He sent me a message saying that I am learning about this and I would like to contribute to Roadmap. Do you think I could work with you? And now I was working with these guys, so I thought maybe I should get extra help and maybe we could speed up the development and so on. I had a call with him and he did not know anything about anything at all. So for a moment, I thought that maybe I'm getting extra help, but it's not going to be spending more time mentoring him and like fixing his things and so on. But I thought maybe I should give him a try because I saw that he was trying to do things. I looked at my previous message history, so he was trying to learn. So there was something there. It just needed some extra push or extra help in improving. So I decided to hire him. We started working together. He said that he's a full-stack developer. He was not a full-stack developer. He was a front-end developer. First thing was I told him that maybe work on like authentication side and then we can do it together. He came back to me with some really, really bad code. I looked at the code and I saw that it was really lacking a lot of things. I had a call with him. We discussed together. I guided him like, do this in this way, do this in that way, and so on. So he took my feedback, he improved it. And after that, it was just a series of improvements. Like every day we would have some like pairing session. We would work together or something. For example, if I'm working on something, I would jump on a call and I would guide him that this is how I'm doing it. This is the reason why I'm doing it. Do this feature next in this feature that I'm building. Then he would do that. I would give him feedback. He would not repeat the same mistake again. He would go back and do it. He kept on improving this way. Now he's working with me almost like 2.5 years. And I have seen him massively improve in these 2 years. So we recently launched the roadmap editor. So I told you that we had Balsamiq. The issue with Balsamiq was it is still a wireframing tool that is not meant for making roadmap. So I thought maybe we should build our own editor for making these roadmaps. So we built the editor. So this was him all alone working on the editor, me just jumping in and trying to guide him over time, and that's it. Now he's at a point that if there's anything complicated, no matter how complicated it is, I just throw it at him. He goes away. He doesn't come back saying that I can't do it, you do it, or this is the issue, or coming up with excuses. He's able to do everything by himself. All because he had good attitude. He has this passion to learn. He was trying to do things on his own. The only thing he was missing was the direction. And with us pairing together and the mentorship and the guidance, he was able to become a super productive member. And like at that time, he did not have any projects on GitHub. He just had his portfolio. Now he has one project called Melee.2, which has almost like 2,500 stars on GitHub. A lot of super big VC firms are using it in their website as well. And yeah, I'm really proud of him. And I think he's one of the success stories of Roadmap, who learned from Roadmap and he got to where he is today.
Amazing. That's just really an amazing story. Very inspirational. I guess just going from like knowing nothing or like, writing bad code to just working with you, learning and just not giving up and getting to a stage where he can confidently contribute to a platform like yours. And not just that, go and build their own versions of projects and get traction on that. I think that's just truly an amazing story. So yeah, congratulations, helping somebody achieve that.
And there are multiple lessons. I don't think there is something that I did here. It was all him. And I think most of the beginners, they can use what he did as an example and improve themselves. So what are the lessons here? First thing is he was trying to learn on his own, not giving up, like reaching out to people here and there. Like he told me that he was sending a message to a lot of people. So reaching out to people, you don't know, like someone will reply to you and maybe it would change your like whole career trajectory. Second thing is like, if I was giving feedback to him and it was harsh feedback, he was not just getting angry. So he was learning from this feedback and spending time. And I would see that he would just sometimes like stay up till 1 a.m. and I would say that go to sleep. Why are you up? and he would say that I'm working on this, and he would just do it like because he was learning. He saw that he was learning. And I don't have any like days scheduled with him. I don't say like you have to be here from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. You have to be here from this much time. Like we don't sometimes call at all. I just give him something and I can trust him. And this trustworthiness is something that you always look for. So good attitude, there's learning, desire, and the passion to get better. These are the things that everyone who has that can easily like get better and like change their career trajectory.
Amazing. So maybe a tangent on that, how important do you think are like, I guess, natural skills here, right? Like maybe his aptitude or his approach to solving a problem without any experience whatsoever. Maybe, knowing like basics of writing code. And as you said, just knowing how to write front-end code. Going from that to where he is today, did you ever think like he lacked certain skills that he might not be able to reach to a level where you would be happy with his coding? Or like, were you confident that like in time, people can like learn and get to wherever they have to get to?
I think practice is the key thing. Anyone who has good attitude and practices a lot, it trumps everything. Like you don't need anything. I think good attitude and practice and having the desire to get better, these are the three only things that I think everyone should have. And I saw that he checked all these three boxes. He was producing bad code, but I saw that he was coming up with a solution. He was not nagging me all day saying that I can't do it, I can't do it. I was giving him something because I was also super busy with other stuff. And the good thing was like he was just taking it off. Like even if at the end of the day, he can't do it, we just do it together. And I saw him that he was not repeating the same mistake. So yeah, with him, I didn't notice this. But yeah, I mean, I don't think programming or anything that if you put effort or practice, you can't learn. Like you can learn. Attitude is the key.
Amazing. All right. So we spoke about the growth of a roadmap. We spoke about you growing as, from a one-man team to now a two-people team. Are you looking to grow more? Like, are you looking to hire more people or, what's the future of Roadmap?
The plan is to stay lean because we're also still figuring out like what we want to do. The goal with Roadmap is to become the Google of the learning space. So just like when you think of searching something, you think I should go to Google and search something. So we want to be the same thing when it comes to learning. When you think learning something, you think about Roadmap and you come here and you start learning. So that's the plan. How are we going to get there? We are still figuring it out. So until we figure out what it is, we'll be staying lean. We'll be keeping the team count. If we need any help, we get contractors. Or for example, let's say that we launched our first course about SQL. If I need some help, maybe I would hire someone. Or for example, we get some people from the community to come and make course on Roadmap.sh. And then we pay them the royalties and so on, for example. So all these things, so we are still experimenting until we figure out that the plan is just to stay lean and keep on experimenting, keep on growing. And we have seen it break records. I mean, in terms of users who are learning from it. Yeah, so
cool. So can you give us an idea where Roadmap is at right now in terms of like user growth and like the traffic, and what do you measure usually?
So we have this complex reporting. So I am super data driven. So whenever I build some new feature or I build something, I do the reporting first. So I make sure that we have reporting. So we're using Metabase at the moment. So it is connected to database and then it pulls in all the reports. We have a lot of reporting. And at the moment, like we have almost 2 million registered users, 6 million page views per month, 6 to 7 million page views per month. Last month was our biggest in terms of visits on the website. It was almost like 1.3 million users. This month, I think we're going to cross that as well. Apart from that, we have almost like 15,000 teams who are using the platform. We have also 100,000 plus custom roadmaps that people have created, 100,000 plus AI generated roadmaps as well. And course is also doing pretty well. Other than that, YouTube also has almost 210,000 subscribers, even though we're not putting any effort there. So yeah, and I mean, we keep breaking records in terms of number of users who are using the platform.
Amazing. Yeah. Cool. So next, I'd like to dive into a little bit more about your approach to building product. So if you look at Roadmap, like we can see how well it's built, and if you look at be it the performance or the UI UX, the user experience, all of that. You mentioned that in the early days of your career, you were more of a back-end person. How did you, maybe we can start with like your approach to, or your growth in the past decade as an engineer. How did you grow from like back-end to front-end? How did you kind of polish your front-end skills and kind of become this full-stack developer or engineer that you are today?
So I always had this entrepreneurial drive. So I always wanted to build things. So I made sure that since the beginning of my career, I always made sure to have a side project that I was working on. Because normally people think that, you should learn at your job. If you're not learning, you should switch a job and go somewhere else. And I don't think that is the case, because business has different kind of goals. You have to work towards that goals, and you can't expect the company to teach you. So you have to do things on your own to learn stuff on the side or whatever it is. So I started off as a backend developer. I always wanted to learn about the front-end development as well. So what I did was I did a lot of side projects which were in the front-end space. So I did that. I wanted to get better at design. So I did that also on the side projects. I have a lot of side projects that helped me taught that. Same for DevOps. I would do it on side projects. So one thing that helped me was I have this Trello board, which has a lot of lanes in there. So there would be a lane called, for example, YouTube video ideas. There would be a lane called ebook idea, course idea. For example, there would be a lane called quick projects or monetary projects, or for example, whatever. So there's a lot of lanes in there. Whenever I get an idea, I just drop it in there, because I always am thinking like, what can I do? Or if I come across something on Twitter or Dribble or Parton, I would say that maybe this could be done better in this way. So whenever I get some idea, I just drop it on the Trello board. And when I get time, I just pick the idea and I start working on this. And another thing, this Trello board has helped me with is that one thing that people do is they're not in the habit of finishing. They start something and then they leave it. I think that everyone should be good at finishing things, not starting. So that's why, normally when I start something, I don't even announce it. I just finish it and then I post it that I built this. So maybe you should do the same thing, like start things and then finish things. And if I get some idea, for example, it happens to me all the time that I'm working on something and I start thinking that this is not going to work. Maybe this has something better. I should work on this. But no, I don't do that. What I do is I put this on the Trello board and sort this on the priority list. I finish this and then pick this up. And always having a side project is something that got me where I am today.
Very interesting. So I think the part about, finishing things, I think that's super important. I guess a lot of people start and kind of end up not finishing things, right? But why is that so important for you? Like if we have to just dive in deeper there a little bit, like you start something, why are you different? Like why are you so adamant that you should finish it?
I'm not different. I also had the same issue. If you look at my workspace directly on my laptop, it was filled up with that project that I never finished. Okay. But I got into the habit that I don't start something super big. So before I used to get really big projects. So I would build, let's say that I'm building this bookmarking platform where you could bookmark, post a YouTube video or any web page from any place, and then it just goes there. And I was thinking of building a community around it and so on. So I worked on this for a month or so, and then I never got to finish this. So I don't build big projects like this. Now what I do is I pick smaller projects. If I can do it in a week or so, I pick it up. Otherwise, I don't pick it up. Because most of the time, my goal is not to make money from it or get fame or whatever. I'm just doing a side project because I wanted to experiment this thing, or I want to learn about this thing that I need to use at work, for example, and so on. As I mentioned before, I pick projects to experiment with the thing. Whenever I'm learning something, I make sure to do some practical project with that. So having practical projects and smaller projects is something that helped me finish things. And over time, I think after launching a lot of things, it did help.
Cool. Awesome. So I would like to ask a little bit more about the front end or the user experience side of things. Having used Roadmap, I feel like the user experience is just super awesome, right? There's a lot of focus on performance. There's a lot of focus on how you interact with it. Again, going back and trying to understand how you did all of that on your own. So you don't have a UI UX person or designer who has designed Roadmap. Is that right?
Nope, it's designed by a backend developer. So what I do is like normally like I'm super interested in design. So what I do is on Twitter, I'm like whenever I come across some design post, I would like it or I bookmark it or whatever. So feed is really relevant to my interests. Same on Dribble. So whenever I'm doing something, like when I have free time, I would just go to Dribble and start exploring like how people design things and so on. I still think that I'm lacking design capabilities. I need to get better at it. But what I think has helped me is being able to tell a bad design from a good design. If you know that, I think you can design some good things. If you look at a bad design and you say that this is really good, I made a like super well-crafted page, then you are not going to improve it. So having a design sense and building this design sense with the help of looking at other people's designs is what helped me get better at designing. I don't use Figma. I don't use anything for designing. I would just do a paper mockup with ball pen and that's it. I would just start doing it in the code and I would just experiment. There are certain things that I try to keep in mind when designing something. A lot of people say that all of my design looks same. And that's because I have this design guidelines that I follow, which are only use the black and white colors. Start with the black and white colors. Don't put any extra colors in there. Use system UI font or Intel font in there. Put extra spacing, a lot of spacing in there. Proper font sizes. Have proper hierarchy. Don't have, for example, upper padding is let's say 10 pixels, bottom is 20 pixels and so on. Like have proper hierarchy in there. And then other than that, I don't like really write the optimized code. I start with something really rough. Keep it in one page, and if I see that I like the design, then I would do it better. Maybe split it into components, reuse the logic here and there, and so on.
So if someone had to start like working on their design skills, and I think it's especially important in this era of AI and I guess, the times where like we're trying to get really efficient with the way that we build things, I think we're going to see a lot more like solo developers build stuff. You can already see patterns of people learning. I think there's a big trend happening where people like are actually learning coding, more right now. I think that's what I feel at least, because I think with the help of AI, it's easier to learn and get started. And of course, like, get AI to review your code and, help you write the right way and things like that. But I think it's super important to have the design skills, the user experience skills as well. So if you had to start as a backend developer, if you had to start like building that design sense, like as you said, understanding the good and bad design, right? I think that itself is a problem with a lot of people. So how did you understand that? Like, how did you know this was good design, this is bad design? Like, what would you look at a design and what are the factors that you would look at and say, this is bad, this is good? Like, what would be some of those guidelines?
So I think it just happened naturally. So I would look at a lot of designs. I mean, normally I would look at a lot of designs. And if I like some design, I would think more about it. Like, why do I like this? Like, is it the fonts? Is it the spacings? Is it the coloring? Like, what are the patterns he's using in the design and so on? So looking deeply into the designs I like. And over time, I think going through a lot of them just helped me get better at design. One other thing that I do is like, let's say that if I need to make a navigation or we are the course page, right? So on the course page, what I did was like we had the testimonial section and we had the navigation section, we had the buy button, we had the like FAQs, we had the table of content. So for each section, what I would do is I would go to Dribble, search on Google Dribble tags and search for testimonials. Dribble tags, navigation, Dribble tags, buy button. So divide the page into smaller sections, look at the different designs on Dribble and then mix and match. Use multiple designs. For example, in some design, you might like, for example, the fonts. In some design, you might like the shadows, for example. In some design, you would like, for example, the spacing. In your design, for example, let's say you have this teal color and gray color and use it according to your design and so on. One other thing that has helped me get better is I use AI. I've started using AI. So what I do is, for example, when I'm designing the landing page, I would just do some part of it and I would ask, let's say, cursor, look at my design and while keeping the same design sense in mind, implement the buy button. So it would do it, I would modify it according to my taste. And I would say, look at the upper 2 sections, make me the next section. It would do something random, I would improve it, then I would say, look at the upper 3 sections and do it. And so I keep on like iterating with the help of AI, so it helped me speed up as well. With GitCode, you would not believe that it was all done by ChatGPT, by Cursor itself. So what I did was, I just said that use Apple design guidelines. I like Tailwind teal color and this color and that color. I use this font and come up with this kind of design. And then it came up with something. I said, I don't like it. Change this a bit differently. I don't like this. Use lucid font. Put this here, put this there. I didn't put any effort in there. I mean, I did some minor modifications here and there, but it's all, Git code is all with the help of Cursor.
Wow, amazing. Just so if someone hasn't seen that yet, let me just give a quick idea.
Go to gitcode.com. That was mine.
Gitcode.com. Okay. It's like a TikTok for GitHub. Okay.
Yeah, now you can keep scrolling like one by one. On mobile, it does a bit better than desktop.
Okay.
Click settings. So you can modify it. So you can pick up like what is the feed type. Do you want to look at the newer projects or random projects? Pick programming language of your choice. Okay. So on. I did this only because I wanted to do something with the React router. So React router launched 7 recently. So I thought instead of building something random, I built this. And I spent like maybe 2-3 hours to build this whole thing.
Wow. Amazing. Okay. Cool. So I think we should have a deeper discussion on AI at another time. Maybe we can work on something together interesting on our next podcast. But maybe give everyone a gist of like, what has your experience been with AI so far? Like, how do you use it? And what are your earlier initial thoughts?
Okay, first of all, I mean, a lot of CEOs, like company CEOs are saying that AI is going to replace developers. If you're learning CS, don't learn computer science. AI will be overtaking you and so on. I don't think it is going to happen. Developers are always going to be needed. There's going to be a tool in the tool belt of developers, and it is going to help you get more productive. There might be some impact on the number of jobs that you might see out there because developers will get more productive and so on. But yeah, I don't think developers are going anywhere. The thing you should do is get better at programming. You should make sure that there is something that makes you stand apart. That should be either your side projects, you working on your personal brand, for example, or using AI to fullest. For example, if you have a side project, do them. Try to make money from your side projects and do whatever it is. So first is that. Second, for beginners, I would say that if you are a beginner, AI can hurt your career because I see that when I was starting in my career, if I get stuck, I need to do a lot of practice. I need to Google, I need to go Stack Overflow, which will open up my mind to different ideas, for example, or I need to really bash my head towards something. I don't have any autocomplete and so on. Now, what happens is if you are a beginner and you're coding something, you have autocomplete on, you don't even think, and it just writes something for you, and that's it. Like in the end, you don't get anything. Also, like on Twitter, a lot of influencers are promoting this vibe coding. Like I do vibe coding. Vibe coding is good if you know what you're doing. If you don't know, if you're a beginner and you're just vibe coding, I think you are not learning anything, and I feel sorry for you. I mean, if you are expecting to grow in the next few years. So one of the things that I always recommend to beginners is that even if you use AI, what you should do is bind a shortcut, a global shortcut to toggle on and off AI, so that don't use it like aggressively, use it when you need to. The second thing you should do is when you're coding something, think about the two aspects, whether you're doing it to learn this thing or whether you're doing to get this done. If learning is the goal, don't rely on AI, do it yourself and try to practice. If getting it done is the goal, then maybe use AI and get it done. And even then, don't blindly accept whatever it is producing. Because I've been using it for the past 5 months and I saw it that sometimes it would give me the solution that it would work, but it would be really like a foolish solution for that. And I would say that, why did you do it this way? And it would say, it makes sense. Let me change it. So it does that mistake also. So make sure to look at what it is producing as well. Yeah. I'm using it heavily, but I'm using it mainly for refactoring. I'm using it for like maybe writing emails and preparing reports and stuff, for example. I'm using it for the design help. If I'm learning about something or if I'm working with unfamiliar code base, I would ask AI like how it is working, how would I improve it, so on. Or if I'd done something, I would ask it for an extra set of eyes to say like review my code and give me suggestions how it can break, what are the edge cases I have missed, for example, and so on. And other than that, daily workflow.
By the way, what is vibe coding? Tell us what that is.
So vibe coding, as far as I know, what I see on Twitter is that you just prompt, accept, like whatever it is. It's funny because I saw a post on Reddit last week or so. There was a guy who said that I don't know about Python. I spent past 3 months building this app And now I don't know what it is doing, and even yourself doesn't know what it is doing. And there was a meme that when I coded this, only Cursor and I knew, then only Cursor knew, and now even Cursor doesn't know.
Yeah, totally.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah, agree. So I think that's a very valid point there. I have the same feeling about AI. I definitely don't think it's replacing developers, but I think if used effectively, it can increase the efficiency, the speed at which you can build things. Of course, you cannot fully rely on AI and blindly accept the code that it generates. That's an experience I've had to by myself. Sometimes it would have a library that does something, and then when you ask it to do the same thing in another place, it would just install a completely different library that does the same thing. Then I would have to remind it to say, hey, why don't you just use the same one? And then it would go, as you said, yeah, you're right. So that happens a lot, right? Especially the approach. So I don't think you should blindly trust it. You have to give it like really specific instructions. But if that's the case, I guess it can save a lot of time in terms of writing, things that would error out. And then, you'll have to try and rewrite it. I guess it can help save that initial effort a lot of times, provided it's given the right instructions.
Yeah.
Cool. So one of the things you mentioned earlier is how for years, Roadmap was just hosted on GitHub pages. That's zero cost. And only very recently, you've moved it to a server and you've started to incur some cost. But generally, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are about building things that are cost efficient. And then, how do you think about cost versus, developing something?
Okay, so now these days, I think there are many different options where if you want, you can skip. You can build things without spending a penny. One of the worries that many developers have is that they will build something, it has a lot of traffic, and they will spend a lot of money which they don't have. So this is a valid concern, but it's only valid if you think that you're getting a lot of traffic and you get famous and so on, which is not the case in almost 99% of the cases. So you should build things. Don't think that it is going to bankrupt you suddenly and get all the fame and so on. If it does happen, that's a good thing. At least, that's my experience, that I built a lot of things, some not got famous at all. 95% of the projects, they don't get famous at all. So don't let that really stop you. The second thing is there's many options at the moment for deployments. For Roadmap case, I was just paying $90 per year from 2017 till 22, and it was still getting almost, it had 250,000 stars on GitHub. It had 250,000 visitors at that time per month. It had all that stuff and all the features that were there, login registration, PDF download were there, and bookmarking was there, and all these features. The way I do it is I try to do things in the browser. So if I need to use a database, I would think that, do I need to save it in the database, or can it be just in the browser? For example, I would use local storage. So in Roadmap case, I did everything in the client side. It was a static build. I went through different iterations. The first version was built with vanilla HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Then I went with Jekyll. Then I went with Elementy, I think. After that, I experimented with Next.js. Then I moved to Astro. Right now, we are using Astro, but we are going to move to React Router soon. So you need to keep on experimenting. But if you go with some SSG framework that allows static builds, you can just build it, put it on Cloudflare or Vercel or GitHub Pages, and you don't need to pay any amount for a good number of users. And even if you have server there, for example, Cloudflare does not charge you much. They have really generous tiers for free users. You can use D1, for example, for database, and you use free Cloudflare Pages deployments, and then you just put it there. So for me, I personally try to do things on the client side so that I don't have to use server to incur costs. But even if you incur costs, a normal small EC2 instance goes a long way. Roadmap has almost 1.34 million registered users, and we're getting almost similar active users per month. And our is EC2.medium, which does not cost, I think, more than $10 or something per month.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's spot on. So first of all, I don't think anyone should worry about something that they built getting really popular, so much so that it's going to bankrupt you, right? I think if you manage to build something that is that popular, then maybe there are ways to find things that you probably can do to make that self kind of sustainable, right? Maybe find ways to monetize it so that you can at least run the infrastructure. And maybe if you can even monetize it further, then you can probably reinvest that into the project and just, continue to build that out as a product that just continues to self-fund and grow on its own, which is huge, right? So if anyone has that worry, I don't think they should worry about it, because one, there are, as you said, there are many solutions that are available where you can freely host a lot of things with almost zero cost. And if you get to a stage where it's become really huge, then there will be a lot of ways, right? Like in your case, I guess even when you didn't have any kind of monetization on Roadmap, acquired by a firm and then able to fund it. So those kind of opportunities exist as well.
And the other thing is also if you have a paid SaaS platform where you just have 3-4 paying users in the beginning, or 50 users even, or 100 users even, and you can do it and EC2 small instance, which would cost you $5 per month, and you don't have to worry about it at all. People don't give too much thought to the scalability even when they shouldn't.
Okay, so for many years, it was just a static website that was just on GitHub pages until it got, millions of views a month. Is that right?
Yeah. So it was all on GitHub pages. The greenish box on the top right side, it was all on GitHub pages. No database, no AWS, no further repositories, just single repository on GitHub, and that's it. Until we had 6-7 million page views. And it scaled to, almost 3-4 million page views there.
Okay. And what was the main reason of going away from that and moving to AWS and building an architecture around this?
So it didn't happen in one night. So what we did was we were thinking about adding login registration. So the first thing we did was we need to think about where do we deploy our servers? Where do we pick our database? I didn't know much about where did you want to go, what the data looked like, so on. So I decided to go with MongoDB. I used MongoDB Atlas for the database. And I just started with one instance on AWS for the Roadmap API. We call it API main. So front end was still a static build, talking to API from api.roadmap.sh, and that's it. And then after that, as we started improving it, we started adding more services. For example, we now had the issue that we had a lot of subscribers that were subscribed to our newsletter, almost 1 million or so. Now, for sending a newsletter, it was also super costly. We had to look at where do we go with that? So we decided to go with SES in the beginning. So we built our in-house tool for that. So that's newsletter app that we did. And then ops tool is for operation stuff like running database backups or adding indexes to the database or some custom monitoring scripts and so on. S3 was for the backups. On the repository side, we have specific formats. So web-roadmap, anything that starts with web. This is the front-end repository. API- is the API repository. And infra hyphen is all the infra repositories and so on. It's quite a bit outdated. We don't have Packer anymore. We don't have AMIs anymore. But yeah, it gives you overall idea of how the things were set up.
Got it. So right now, is that an AWS instance on which you're running the main Roadmap backend?
Yes. So on VPC, we have Roadmap connected to Atlas through VPC peering. And yeah, back office, we also have it here. We have a data application for reporting and stuff here also. And database, we're not self-hosting. It is all Atlas.
Got it. And so the front end is still on GitHub pages?
No, we decided to ditch it after some time because the GitHub pages is all allows you to only have static builds. So for URL parameter, username / roadmap.sh / you / Kamran, you can't have that, right? It has to be you and query parameter ID equal to Kamran or whatever, which looked very ugly. I had to drop it and then move to SSR on the AWS. But this is also on AWS on an EC2 SS.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. And do you have a monitoring stack?
Yeah, we kept it super basic in the beginning. So right now we still have Monit. Monit is really basic. You just install it on the server and start monitoring. We're also using that data as well for monitoring as well at the moment.
Awesome. And how do you monitor the performance? You said the backend API automatically scales up and down. So as your traffic increases and reduces, it just automatically scales up and scales down?
Yeah, we did that, but then we get rid of it because we have H2 medium instance and still it is at almost 10% of the CPU and memory. We have proper firewall, proper rate limiting and everything. But for monitoring, we are using net data. So we have graphs and dashboards on certain different things like how queries are performing and how overall health look like on the server.
All right. So some questions about general engineering kind of best practices or how you keep yourself up to date with some of the latest trending technology. So like as of today, if you had to like rebuild a roadmap from scratch, what would be the tech stack that you would use?
Okay, so for keeping up to date, I mean, I use Hacker News and also Roadmap itself, because Roadmap, we are forced to keep it up to date. So we revisit them every 6 months and make sure that we are not recommending anything that is outdated or any obsolete topics in there and so on. So this is for keeping up to date. For the tech stack that I would use today, it would probably be React Router in the SSR more on the front-end side. Database would still be MongoDB, because we have still a lot of unstructured data that we need to keep as well. Other than that, Tailwind for the styling. Apart from that, GitHub Actions for CI/CD, still on AWS. I would use Cloudflare in the front for DNS and also for proxying. Apart from that, what else? Yeah, maybe Cloudflare R2 for storage, like backups and stuff. Monitoring would still be, I'll probably look at Datadog, but they're super expensive. I didn't want to try that. Yeah, I think that's it. For development, which would probably be React Router on the front-end side with SSR mode. Backend would be Golang or Node.js, and database would be MongoDB probably.
Okay, awesome. Anything new that's new and developing that like you're keeping an eye on?
Just AI, like AI is hyped everywhere. How to use AI into the developer, like productivity and so on.
Got it. And what any preferred models that you use?
No, I really like WebStorms, IntelliJ projects for the ID and stuff. I use Cursor heavily these days, which I hated because I don't like VS Code as much. I just do it like Cursor, vanilla prompting with like giving it the context and saying like I have this and so on, and I need this. I'm also using dictation tools. So there's a tool called Super Whisper. What you do is you have a shortcut, and then you speak into the microphone and it would write whatever you need, and then you just press enter. So normally like you have speaking speed, which is faster than the typing speed. So that's why like prompting is much faster. So I write my prompts using Super Whisper. So other than that, yeah, I mean, just vanilla prompting in that sense.
Does it get it right most of the time?
It is using Whisper, which is really good at like collecting the pauses and all that stuff. So it's quite good.
Okay, awesome. Cool. And you mentioned about the Trello board that you have, and like whenever you come across something, you kind of put things there. How do you prioritize that? Like, how do you pick which one to work on and which one to drop?
It depends. I mean, I don't really have a framework for that. So if I have some idea, what I normally do is I just put that in the sorted list based on my interest. So I always end up creating a new lane called interesting, super interesting or whatever. And I would drop the idea there. And after some time, I realized that this is not that interesting. So I would put back in the list where it belongs. So normally like I have another list lane called super interesting or whatever, which is prioritized and which is a subset of all these things. And depending on like when I want to do it, and I just drop it there and I pick it up normally from that list. Get code was from there because I wanted to do the React Router. Other than that, right now I am building on the side. Like I just had this note map, the one that I built recently, like drag and drop editor for creating notes. So I was just thinking of adding some AI features. So yeah, it just varies. I don't really have a framework for that.
Awesome. Yeah. But any other productivity hacks that you would like to share with us?
I have 2 daughters and I'm married. So the productivity hack is only just to utilize the time that I have effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, if I even waste like 10 minutes, it means that they're gone. I will not be able to use it. So I just make sure that the time that I have to use it effectively. I don't open YouTube. I don't open like Twitter. I don't open anything on the side when I'm working on something. I just set a timer. I also actually built time.fyi for that. So it just opened up a timer for me and I just start working and I just tried to make myself not distracted. And that was the only productivity hack. I mean, just setting a timer and it is hovering over in front of me and I know that I have set a timer and I need to work on this thing and just keep working on this.
Yeah. So is that the Pomodoro technique that people refer to?
I don't really heavily rely on Pomodoro. For me, I just have a ticking timer in front of me that this is ticking and I'm working on this and that's it.
Yeah.
But I don't really use all these.
Yeah. Do you set it so that you want to finish something in time, or do you set it to say in the next 1 hour I'm going to finish this or something like that? Like how does that work?
I just say that I need to focus for the next 1 hour, for example. I don't say that I need to finish it. Either I need to prioritize this, I need to pick this up next and so on. What I have is also I have the sticky item with my desk, or a lot of them. Whenever I just get an idea, just put it there. And timer for me is just a reminder that I am working and I shouldn't waste this time on YouTube or any other thing.
Yeah. Do you waste time on YouTube at all or any other social media?
I do a lot. Like I have the habit of using Twitter on my mobile phone all the time. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I try to not do it when I'm working. I keep my mobile phone a bit farther from me. I use it normally when I'm away from my laptop. On laptop, I want to open like Twitter or like any other platform like that.
Yeah. And what does your day look like these days? Like how many hours do you work, and like on a weekly basis, how many days do you work?
I mean, for Roadmap, it is a full-time job for me. I try to work during the day from 9 to 6, but normally it doesn't happen. Like if I'm working on something interesting, I don't feel like Roadmap is a job for me. So I end up working over hours or late night or whatever. But normally like how the day looks like, it varies from day to day. Like sometimes, for example, I need to prioritize like GitHub issues. Some days I'm working on a roadmap, or let's say that there's a roadmap plan. So I need to reach out to a lot of people and ask them to help me make the roadmap. So I'll be working on that. Sometimes there's a feature. For example, right now I was working on the data platform. So we were using Metabase, but the issue with Metabase was that we were loading data from our main database. So it means that if we get complex reporting, our main database becomes slower. So I was now working on DuckDB instance, so where we were syncing the data from our main database into that with ETL logic, and then have custom reporting built on top of that. So this is what I'm working on. So some days there's a project like this and so on. It varies from day to day, but it's a mix of everything. But I don't have a lot of meetings because this was the flexibility I got with these guys with that side. So it's all productive day for me.
Yeah. Very interesting you mentioned that, because we've been working on a data project on our own and we're using Metabase ourselves too. So when you said the ETL platform, is that, what is that? Are you using BigQuery or something?
No, it's all custom logic. So we just wrote some Node.js scripts that loads the data incrementally from our database and then loads it into DuckDB. So DuckDB is similar to the file system. So what we do is we have a button called sync now that gets enabled every 6 hours. You click it, what it will do is it will get the changes from last sync, any updates that were there, depending on, let's say, updated that field in there. It would get all the new users, new team, new roadmaps, updates, visits, and so on, and put them into the DuckDB. And then on top of DuckDB, we have a custom UI.
Got it. So this would mean like your data is like, what is that, 6 hours, you said? 6 hours old, right? It's not, then you don't really see the live data, which is fine. You don't really need. Okay.
Because GA and all these platforms, I mean, they give you 24 hours normally. So they are not imported. So
yeah. Are you importing GA data?
No, GA is just Looker. We have Looker for custom reporting.
Okay. Looker directly integrated with GA.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, GA4 is quite good. They have custom reports. So I have a lot of custom reports. Things like, for example, outbound links or links from partners, like how many people are sending the requests. All these custom reports in there and funnels in there just to track. Yeah. Reporting, a mix of Looker, GA custom reporting, and then this data platform and Metabase.
Interesting. Do any inbound analysis? Like, do you have any reports that tell you like where are people coming from?
Yes. I mean, we have that in Metabase. Like when you sign up, we track the IP and everything just to make sure that we know where you're coming from and so on.
Yeah. Like any insight into like where do people come from, like to Roadmap? I don't mean like geographical locations, but I mean like, are there like any big, like you said, Hacker News, right? Is that still a channel for you, or like what are some of the other interesting patterns you see?
So for us, word of mouth has been the biggest. So if you go to Twitter and search for Roadmap.sh, you will say daily, like there are 20 to 30 posts about roadmaps. Secondly, on Reddit, like we don't promote Roadmap at all. Like we're not doing anything for the promotion, no paid marketing, no announcement post, nothing. Like on Reddit, there would be like daily 10 to 15 posts about Reddit. And what happens is like on Reddit, something would go viral and then it would mean that more clicks for us, more links for us. Something would go viral on Twitter, same thing from there. And it's all organic from word of mouth. Like, and the good thing is like whoever comes across Roadmap, they do end up sharing it with other people, and then they share with other people and so on. So this word of mouth has helped the organic growth in the exponential manner.
Amazing. Yeah. Agree. I guess that's kind of a similar story for us too, which is why I asked you specifically about like how you track channels in GA4, because like I guess we have like true word of mouth traffic where like people actually talk to each other, and so it's like almost impossible to get a clear understanding of like where are people actually really coming from, right? Like, so we do have some LinkedIn posts and Reddit mentions and here and there, but it's never really like, you can't like pinpoint to say like, this is exactly where, people are coming from. Like it never adds up to like the total traffic that we get. Like, I think that's what I'm coming to.
And we also have like 60% of the people are coming directly. It says direct traffic.
Yeah.
So 60% of people come directly, which means coming and entering the URL in the browser.
Yep.
Like good number is from brand searches. One thing that I mentioned before to you was that the roadmap name, developer roadmap. So this, when I built this project that in 2017, at that time, there was no one calling it roadmaps. So roadmap was the term used for product roadmaps.
Yep.
There was learning paths and this term used. So what I did was like at that time, like I was lucky to use the term and use that. So now whenever we launch a new roadmap, let's say Python roadmap or PHP roadmap, if someone searches for PHP roadmap because it's a brand word, so it comes on the top.
Yeah.
So Google and word of mouth, and I think direct traffic is two biggest,
I guess. So, and if I just search roadmap 2, right? I guess Roadmap.sh comes first. Is that right?
Yes.
If I just search for roadmap. Yeah. Awesome. So thank you for sharing that. Amazing insights and, great conversation, Kamran. Awesome. So tell us about what's coming up with Roadmap. Like what's the next big thing and how's that going to benefit your audience?
So for Roadmap, I mean, the usual stuff, we are working on more roadmaps. So every month we try to add at least 2 roadmaps and then improving the existing roadmaps as well, adding more projects ideas as well. One thing that I'm really excited about is the course platform that we built in-house. So it's a bit different from the other course platform that you see. I mean, you have the IDE in there, like coding environment in there, so you can practice within the coding environment. We have AI integration and we have like textual knowledge, textual stuff without fluffy content in there. So we don't have an SQL course. We're going to be working on more courses as well. And that's mostly it, like just further improvements of the platform. And I'll share the coupon with you that you can share on the course note, on the podcast notes for others to benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. So for those of you who are looking to learn SQL in a completely new way, check out the new course that's launched on Roadmap. And thank you so much for sharing the news with us and the coupon code. Kamran, appreciate it. Well, that was a lot and lots of great insights, lots of inspiring stories. So lots of inspiration. Thank you so much for sharing with us the lessons from building Roadmap and all the insights that you've shared with us for the past hour or two. I really appreciate joining us on this podcast, Kamran. And once again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Mumshad. It was a pleasure. It was really enjoyable for me as well.
All right. Until next time. Bye-bye.